Dear brothers and sisters, as we all gather together, it gives me great joy to have an opportunity to talk about something which we all have to deal with. And as we look at our lives, we find that we come across situations where someone is asking help from us. It might be someone that we know. It might be someone who's a member of a family. It might be someone who's a friend. Or it could be a stranger. Many times as we drive by and we stop at a stop sign, someone might either have a card or a big board which says, "I haven't eaten for a couple of days, please help me," or someone might just put their hand out to be helped. And there are many situations that we run into in which we have to make a decision. Should we help? Should we not help? Should we make sure that the person is needy? Or we're not sure if we help them, let's say monetarily, if the money would be used for what they say it will be used for. And so these kind of questions start to come to us, and we all have to make our own decisions. But what is very interesting is that most of the time when we make a judgment call on someone, especially someone that we don't know, then it's more on the looks of the person, it's more on what feeling we have at that time, and we make a decision based on that. But many times the looks might be very deceiving. What we see on the outside might not be what it really is. So I'd like to relate an incident that happened in the life of an author. This was an author who used to write books, and he decided to go from one part of the country to another hitchhiking, because he thought he'll be having an experience of meeting the people and on the way to be able to interact with those that he might not have an opportunity otherwise. So he's hitchhiking from the east to the west, and as he's going, he gets hit by a blizzard. And when he's hit by a blizzard, there's a lot of snow there, and he finds himself just walking close to the highway so that he can get another ride. And as he's walking in that bitter cold, he sees someone else coming from the other side. And when he sees someone else coming, he sees someone who's like disheveled, whose clothes are kind of tattered, who seems, quite covered with like dirt. And all of a sudden, this person, this author, he's worried. In his pocket is a can of pepper spray. So he puts his hand in his pocket, ready to use it if the other person is going to come and hurt him. And so as he's walking this way and the other person coming this way, so as they get close, the person who seems like a poorer person asks him, "Where are you going?" Now this author is a little scared already, and he doesn't really want to tell him where he's going. So he says, "Oh, I'm just hitchhiking to the next town." The person there says, "It is very cold out there, and it might take you a while to get to where you're going." So as they're talking, the author really tells him where he's going. He says, "I'm trying to go to California." And he's still pretty far away from California. So the person who's a poor person, he has like a lunch bag with him, or a lunch box. So this poor person asks him, "Oh, do you have enough food for the way?" And now all of a sudden the author thinks maybe now he wants food from me. And he thinks what to tell him. If I tell him I've got a lot of food, he might, want me to share food with him. If I don't tell him anything, then he might come for some food for me. I might have to open my backpack, and I got all kinds of camping, expensive camping equipment in there. So he's thinking what to say, and he says, "Oh, I just have a little cheese." So the poor person says, "On a little cheese you won't be able to get there." And now they're getting closer and closer, and they're talking, and this person, the author, is still very worried. His hand is still in his pocket. And then the poor person makes a comment. And he says, I don't have a home. I live in my car. And I walk to the coal mine every morning to see if there's work. And I work in the coal mine and I make a living. But today when I went there was no work, so I'm going back. And here's my lunchbox, and he opens the lunchbox up, and he says, "Since you're going to California, you'll need it much more than I'll need it today." So it takes out a regular sandwich, it takes out an apple, it takes out a bag of potato chips and hands it to the author. And the author said, No, I have enough. But the poor person said, No, if you're going to California, on cheese you're not going to be able to survive, so I want you to have this. And it's then that the author realizes that sincerely this person wants to help him. And he didn't want the person to feel bad, so he took the food from him. It is then that it set into him how generous that human being was. Many times we feel that we are the ones who can give something to someone else, and we think if someone is poorer, that they might not be able to help us. But generosity comes from our inside. Generosity is a gift of God. Generosity is a state in which our heart opens up. And when we look at the lives of the great saints and mystics, we find generosity in their lives. We can be generous with our money. We can be generous by sharing our food. We can be generous by sharing our time with others. And when we look at the lives of the great saints, we find that they would be there to help each and everyone who came to them, irrespective of whether the one who came was a member of the family or their friend or not. In most cases we find that we're very generous with the other members of our family. We are generous with our friends, but then we are very reluctant when a stranger asks for help. But when we look at the life of saints and mystics, they are generous to everyone. They do not differentiate between one or another. And this is why we find that in their lives, help goes to many, many, many souls. Not only are they generous with their time, but their generosity is such that they take us, those who've been focused into the world, and through their love and through their grace, they have our attention go back to God. They make us realize what the true purpose of life is. They make us realize that this is a golden opportunity to know God. When we learn from the lives of the great saints, we realize that whenever there's an opportunity to help, we should try our very best to help. We need to be compassionate, we need to be giving, we need to be caring, and we need to be generous. we should recognize that if we have something, it's the grace of God. If God has been gracious enough to give us something, whether it's money, whether it's our brains, or any other object that we have, then we need to be in a state where we can share. There are so many people in this world who have a very difficult time dealing with life. Life has many ups and downs, and many people find it very, very difficult to be able to provide for themselves and their families. Many people also need help because maybe the clarity of vision is not there. Maybe they're unable to understand the different phases of life that most people have to go through. And so when we can extend a helping hand, when we can be generous with what God has given us, then we will be able to make the life of everyone else better. And we are all going through a very difficult time. The pandemic has hurt the lives of many, many people. And many times when we deal with the difficulty in which many people are involved, then the solutions are also such that need the involvement of many other people. If we think that we can solve this virus situation by just ourselves, that's not possible. If we think just one town can solve it by itself, that's not possible. If we think one state can solve it by itself, that's not possible. If we think one country can solve this problem by itself, that's not possible too. We all over the globe, need to help. We all need to be able to put our energies together and be able to put into play that what the scientists and the doctors are telling us, so that we are able to deal with this situation in a compassionate manner. This is a time in which, by isolation, by being by ourselves, by socially distancing ourselves, by making sure we wash our hands, by making sure that our meetings with others are physically less and less and less, even though we meet through, other channels of communication, like through the phones or the TVs or many other mechanisms. By being away, we are helping. By not being in a state where there are a lot of other people, we are helping, because that stops the virus from being spread. And so, as we are putting in efforts in all different parts of the world, in all different countries, and we're all focused on the same goal, we'll find that the solutions will be coming very, very quickly. But if all of us go in different directions, then it'll be very difficult to deal with the problem. So we need to collectively help. And this is where generosity comes in. Generosity is not only giving money, generosity is not only giving time. Generosity is thinking clearly and putting into play that which will make the situation better. The situation could be medical, the situation could be financial, the situation could be a relationship situation. So anything that will help the situation is what we need to focus our attention on. And to be able to help, especially those that we don't know, we need to be in a state where we feel connected to them. And to feel connected to everyone else, we meditate. We go within ourselves, we connect with the divine power of God within ourselves. And as we experience the divine power within ourselves, the realization that the divine power of God is also in others sets in. That's automatic. That happens by itself. We don't have to read about it, we don't have to listen to it. By experiencing the divine light within ourselves, the realization that that light is in others also sets in, and automatically then we feel we have a connection with them. The realization that a part of God which gives us life, that another part of God is giving life to someone else, as that sets in, then we realize that our connection to everyone else is through God. And when that realization sets in, then we recognize that we are all a part of one big family of God. And then no one is a stranger anymore. Everyone is our very own. And when we get to that state, then we are generous to everyone that we meet, irrespective of the one that we are meeting, whether we know them, whether they're part of our faith, whether they are part of our family, whether they are part of a friendship group. Irrespective of who they are, we find a connection. And once we recognize that connection, then help goes from us to them. And that's the state we want to be in. Meditation has many, many, many benefits. The real reason to meditate is to be with God. Is to have a soul soar into regions beyond and find the oneness with God. But as we experience the divine revelations within ourselves, then we find that many aspects of our outer life get better. Our relationships with others get better, and the realization that we're all together sets in, and life becomes more harmonious, more joyous, and is much more livable. Everyone goes through ups and downs of life. And so when life becomes livable because we have others who are helping, then this life can be led very, very properly and very, very nicely. So let us meditate for a few minutes. Please close your eyes just like you close them when you go to sleep. Your eyeballs should be straight, focused 8 or 10 inches in front of you. And as you close your eyes, those of you who have been initiated in the mysteries of the beyond, please do your Simran. And those of you who are new here, please repeat any name of God that you feel comfortable with. This repetition of God's name should be done mentally and not out loud. I pray to God Almighty to help each and every one of us connect with the divine power within. And it's my prayer to the three great masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Gopal Singh Ji Maharaj, and the gracious master Sandarshan Singh Ji Maharaj, to help us experience the divine light in its effulgence. We'll be sitting for a few minutes. I'll be getting you out of this meditative state at that time. And my best wishes are with each and every one of you. प्लीज़ लॉग ऑफ छोड़ दीजिए जी.